I'm Ridley from Class TV and I'm here with Ben O'Toole from Step Back Think.
Hi, how are you?
Now, you founded Step Back Think. What's your story? How did you get formed?
So back in about 2007, there was a young man called James McCready Bryan, MB to his mates, and he was assaulted on his 20th birthday in Melbourne CBD. And the consequences of that were pretty devastating. He hasn't really recovered fully and probably never will. So it was around that time that a group of his friends actually all got together and formed Step Back Think to try and start educating and getting the message out there about exactly how catastrophic it can be.
Do you have any facts or figures to tell us about the coward punch phenomena? Is it getting worse?
It's hard to tell whether it's getting worse. Probably the biggest, the stat caught me the most off guard, and I only found it out in the last couple of months, but since 2000, the year 2000, there's been 94 young Australians that have died from one-punch violence. So that's not even taking into account the amount of people that have been seriously injured or have gotten away with, survived quite well.
Yeah. What type of people are affected by this issue?
Well, that's the funny thing. Like it's so far across the board. Like it doesn't feel like it's an issue that's necessarily like stuck in one sort of socio-demographic or one part of our population. It's sort of managed to weave its way almost into like Australian culture, and people not knowing about how serious the consequences can be. People that are brought up really well and good parents and good morals and go to good schools can still actually go out and cause this kind of violence just without realising exactly what can happen.
Yeah. Why are they called coward punches and not king hits now?
Well, I think that changed over the summer, especially when a lot of things were happening up in Sydney with Daniel Christie being assaulted on New Year's Eve. I think the problem with calling it a king hit is it seems to glorify an act that really shouldn't be glorified. It doesn't. It's not to put somebody on a pedestal that they're better than anyone or above everybody else. Coward punch is a much better describing word for exactly what it is.
Because they're a coward if they hit from the back.
Exactly right, yeah.
Youth violence, is it really a problem? And what do you think causes it?
It's certainly a problem. I personally think the biggest problem is not understanding what the consequences are. It was something that I probably wasn't taught in school. The idea of starting a fight was something I was encouraged not to do, and I knew it was the wrong thing to do, but not understanding what can happen to a person when they get hit and when their head hits the concrete, exactly what kind of trauma they can go through. I think that can be hard for a lot of young people to understand, and to find themselves in a situation, of being confronted or in a violent situation, not being able to sort of think about what the consequences can be and take the time to make a really good decision. Yeah, can be pretty tough, I think.
Yeah. What advice would you give to teenagers that are faced with situations that may lead to violence or the coward punch?
I think you always, I know we're called Step Back Think, but I can't think of a better way to describe exactly how that statement can help somebody in a situation. I mean, so many acts of violence and people making snap decisions because they've been pushed or their drink's been spilt. I think in almost all of those situations, if people actually did take a deep breath and think about exactly what the situation is, like what's happened in the situation and what the problem is, more often than not, they're probably going to become aware that throwing a punch or starting a fight isn't actually going to fix or solve anything.
Hopefully you've learned something today. Remember, one punch can kill. So, step back and think.